Hello, Android developers. My name is Mohsen, and I'm back with another friendly talk with one of the Android community active members. But before we start, do not forget that you can like and share this video with other Android enthusiasts, and subscribe to this channel and hit the bell button if you're interested in such content and you want to get notified whenever there is a new video. Without further ado, let's start.
I will talk about Robo Electric. So, welcome to 45 minutes of talking about translating strings. I mean, Kotlin is there. Kotlin is official. I mean, we used it before, a lot of us, but now it was there. And all of us were like this, right? We are Android developers. We are partying on the streets, finally, at least in our heads. I mean, we're a bit introverted, right? So, before we talk about dependency injection, let me share something about Kotlin and myself. So, I started writing Kotlin basically 2 years ago after I came to DroidCon. I heard about Kotlin before and it was amazing. And then I went to DroidCon and I talked to developers and I had a feeling I'm the last person on earth not using Kotlin. Welcome to the testing sessions. I have a good news. You will not see any PowerPoint slides in the next 40 minutes. I have a bad news. For the next 40 minutes, you have to look at Android Studio.
First of all, Danny, thanks for accepting my invitation for this interview. And maybe for the beginning, just introduce yourself and tell me where are you based.
Sure. Hi, thanks for inviting me, actually. So I'm Danny Preussler. I'm based in Berlin, which is easy because I was always based here. So I'm German. And I'm working at SoundCloud right now, working on the Android app.
Cool. So our interview, or I like to call it friendly talk, is kind of broken into small chapters. The first one is the lifestyle question. So maybe without further ado, let's jump into the question and read some of them. But regarding the questions, some of the questions I have wrote by myself, some I got from Reddit thread, which I opened on Reddit, and yeah, we will go further and see how it goes. So maybe first thing first, what's your hobbies after work, and how do you spend non-working time after work?
I definitely try to disconnect from work. It's mostly meeting friends, like spending time with your friends. I try to do sports, I like cardio exercises, like doing HIIT sessions and these kind of things. Lately, did a bit of boxing, so I'm trying this, just like to get your energy out and like get into a different mood.
Cool. And I can see the nice SoundCloud logo in your background. I guess you're currently working in SoundCloud. How does it work?
So we have about 18 Android developers, I think, roughly, and we are spread over different teams. So we have these cross-functional teams. So we normally work together with an iOS engineer, with a backend engineer, and then once in a while, we call them collective, would also meet and discuss Android topics. So you get a bit of both. You get the Android side, and you also discuss with colleagues from iOS and backend.
Cool. Interesting. I love this question because from previous interviews, I got some funny answers. But yeah, can you tell us some fun fact about yourself? Something that maybe less people know. Yeah.
Okay, one interesting thing might be, so I have a magnet implant in my finger. So there's actually magnet in there. I don't have anything here to show you. Oh, actually, yeah. So something metallic, and then I can prove you just by doing this. So it is actually magnetic. Cool. It's something that a lot of people don't know about. That there's such a thing body modification. You can have chips in your finger or magnets, and it's a very nerdy thing to do.
Do you have any special usage for it, or just for fun?
I think the idea that made me do it was when a friend who had it told me from Florida, actually, you can feel electromagnetic fields because the magnet is spinning, and I would go close to my MacBook, my charger, my microwave. I can feel something like wind. So it's gives you a new sense. And I thought, oh, let's try this out.
That was interesting. Cool. So I told you I love this question because I get lots of funny answers. But cool. Do you also do Android for fun after work? I don't know, have some personal project or something for your hobby?
So yes and no. I don't have like projects I would work on, like I used to do, but it's like hard to find this kind of time. But also like for those people who know me, like know that Android for me is more than my job. So like I give like talks, I write blog posts. So there's a lot of Android I do in my free time. So which comes to those weird situations where someone would ask you when we used to travel more before the COVID, for the pandemic, and someone would ask me, "Hey, you are somewhere in the world. Like, is this holiday or work?" And I never know what to respond because I'm not there to do my actually job, but I'm also not there to do holiday. So somewhere in between, right? And this is like the part that I do in my free time, like this Android community part that I really enjoy.
Yeah, that's cool. I agree. You're almost everywhere. So, in general, are you a morning person or afternoon person when your brain works better?
I'm definitely not a morning person. So one thing I enjoyed at this company, for example, is that everybody is like very late in. I think it's also like a Berlin startup thing. Like I know I show up in the office if I go to the office at like 10, and then like hopefully no one puts a meeting before like 10:30, 11 in there, so they have some time, just like get into the day mood. And then like from 11 on, you can talk to me and then we can start working. So I'm definitely like one afternoon person.
And to grasp some focus to start doing your work, do you listen to music? And if yes, then any special artist or genre or album that you put on repeat and you just keep listening?
It's an unusual answer, probably. So definitely I like music, and it helps me focus. But and this fits into like that I work for SoundCloud. Like I actually like listening to techno music. So this is like it's not the classical music or the folk music a lot of people would use, or ambient, that's just something in the background. It also works for me. I also do this when I have like headphones. I would use that. But I really like to sit somewhere like in a like in our cafe where there's loud techno music playing and like focus without having headphones. I don't like headphones. So like there's this constant music in the background, and like something like techno works because it's also very repetitive. So it's nothing with lyrics, right? This wouldn't work. But yeah, and then some people sometimes are wondering like, wait, how can you focus with like this loud music around you? But I actually can. So try to some techno playlist.
Yeah, feel free to share me any link that you want
Sure.
our viewers
So
to have some. Yeah. It's been 2 years since pandemic, but I'd like to know first, how did it hit you? And then second, how did you adapt yourself for working and lifestyle?
It was definitely like a big like change. So before the pandemic, when I was traveling a lot to conferences and also work for companies with like a lot of people all around the world, I thought like this remote work is totally my thing, because it didn't matter if I opened my laptop from Minsk, from Los Angeles, from New York, from Poland, from Berlin. But then pandemic hit and we all work from home, and I realized, wow, this is definitely not the way I want to work, because I really enjoyed coming back to the office, talk to people. Like when the offices were completely closed, I really did not enjoy this, like sitting at home all day. So yes, some kind of remote work probably I still love during traveling. But as you see, like I'm even in the office, I don't have to. I'm doing this because I want to.
Yeah, I was going to ask, you're currently in office, and it looks like you're enjoying to be there from time to time.
Yeah, I'm fine. Like I really like to stay at home. I know when you have a delivery or you have like plans in the evening that start a bit earlier, then I love to have the flexibility. But in general, I like to come to the office. Also, like for the change, and like I know it takes me 30 minutes to bike to work, and I enjoy the exercise, right? So, and also helps to shut down after work, which I like.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, when you leave the office, then you close everything in your mind. I think that's what happened. But when you're working at home, then you feel that anytime you can go and open that folder again and try to do something.
That's the difference. If you like go from like this place to like the couch 1 meter away or 2 meters, or I don't know, you close up and out of the door, have a bike ride or bike way home, right? And like have 20, 30, 40 minutes. And then you're completely in a different mood afterwards.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, makes sense. That's also something that I'm missing. This is kind of personal question, but feel free to not answer if you don't like. But by knowing an Android developer and in general a software developer lifestyle, will you kind of marry an Android developer? And do you think you can live with such a guy?
I mean, yeah, to be honest, I wouldn't mind. I mean, I'm not planning to get married. But as like Android is like more than a job for me. I don't mind like, and I've been with like people that you could talk about work, like even like in your evening, and like someone to have these kind of nerd talks. I actually really enjoy, and I don't need this clear cut as long as it's not actually work, but it's more like the surrounding around it. I enjoy Android, and that's why I'm still doing Android. So I wouldn't have a problem being together with someone who's in the same field.
Okay. Yeah, cool. And maybe as the last question of this category, what's your phone brand?
I actually recently switched. So I always had like Pixel or Nexus phones, like most of my career. But I recently switched to the Flip from Samsung. And yeah, if you ask me for my opinion, I love the hardware. Like Samsung always does amazing thing. I still miss the pure Google that I had on my Pixel, to be honest. Though.
I agree. I'm missing all those. I'm missing making noise with my phone by opening and closing the flap. But yeah, I know. Cool. So yeah, we are done with this part. So yeah, we will come back with the second part.
Sure.
So let's start with the second chapter. So in this chapter, we talk about the Android community questions. So my first question is, what was your latest contribution to the Android community? It could be an article, library, or anything else.
So I think the last thing was an article about Android Auto. So I spent like end of last year and early this year working on bringing SoundCloud to cars, and Android Auto was the first thing. And I'm planning to write more about this. I know it's like a very limited audience, but still like developers might run into problems, and I'd like to share the things that we learned. And the first article was part of this and something that I discovered, and that was interesting. And I hope some people found it interesting too.
To be honest, I read that because I 2 years ago, I was working with a company which was doing some device for the cars, and I had lots of trouble with Bluetooth connection, with how different cars behave with different devices and phones. And for instance, you reduce the volume and some cars pause the music, some cars just reduce the volume. It was super stupid. But yeah, I read that article and I really enjoyed it, and I feel the pain that you had until come to that point. But thanks for sharing again.
That's also why I want to write more of these, because at some point it felt like when I used like the car emulators, for example, like the headless unit, when you work with this, it felt a bit like in the early days of mobile development. Tools are not as mature as they are with the phone. This is like, yeah, I think there's much more pitfalls you can run into. So I think it's like, it's nice to share things.
You are a good talker on the stage. That's what I can admire, and I really enjoy all the DroidCon opening. You are up there and talking a lot, jumping from topics, and do not miss any thread, and you do it great. That's what I can say. But I really like to know how you manage the pressure of being on the stage, because all of us are human. I know talking in front of lots of people can be a bit pressure. How do you bear with that pressure, and how do you calm yourself and then jump on the stage?
I mean, if you see my talks, you often realize that I'm not the most calm person, so often I speak very fast. So I'm not sure if I can give you ideas how to calm down. But I think the thing for me here is that I really enjoy this. So I like from the first moment I experienced this, like I enjoy being in front of the audience. So maybe in another life I would like be some entertainer, or like be a DJ or something. Like there are multiple ways of like getting this, and I enjoy being on stage. This is why it's more something I look forward to. I feel only comfortable when I don't know my topic. So if I give a technical presentation that I'm not really good with, or a lot of uncertainty, then I'm getting nervous because you don't know what to expect. But if you know what you're doing, if you talk about things that you actually written or that you worked with, it's very easy for me. I'm not getting that nervous there, to be honest. And like for DroidCon openings or things like this, I mean, I actually miss a lot of things because I never look at my notes because I don't know, I'm then in the flow, and yeah, I miss a lot of things. But I also like don't need to prepare much or something. I like talking to developers. I guess it helps.
We have 40 minutes. We have more than 100 slides to go, so I will speak very, very fast. So if you're on a recording, just make it slower. Sorry for the ones here. Let's talk about JUnit 5.
You know, we are in a very fast-paced Android community, Android development, and things are changing so fast. How do you keep yourself up to date? Any resources that you check every day, or any social network like Twitter?
Yeah, of course, I try to like read the usual newsletters like Android Weekly or Kotlin Weekly. So I definitely try to at least glance through if there's something interesting. Then if there's like one of these typical conferences like Android Dev Summit, Google I/O, I mean, I try to keep up to date with those. Although, I mean, I think we all have like a backlog of videos we want to watch that we never try find to. But I think my main point is Twitter, because it gives you like an idea of like where the industry is moving, what topic is hot, right? So I definitely be like, I'm on Twitter like every day. Yeah, it's another thing that you might get addicted to it. Be careful. But for staying up to date, to get a general idea, not like a deep knowledge, I think it's a really good thing.
I'm already addicted, and with this new Android community feature that has been added, it's super nice. You cannot miss anything, and then people just write tweets directly to the audience who are interested in Android, and it's super cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah. By the way, if anyone has not joined, just look for it and find someone who has invitation to invite you in, because people have limited invitation, but you can find someone in the community. In general, how much time do you dedicate to learning stuff? For example, you mentioned you're evening person, so in the morning you spend time reading, or just at the end of the day, or even at the weekend?
Mm-hmm. So it depends. I don't have like a fixed time. Like in the morning, normally I use Twitter, or if I don't have time in the morning, maybe I use my lunch break to do these kind of things. When I had one of these videos, sometimes I did like, if I have time on the weekend, like, let's make a nice breakfast and watch like a Google I/O talk or something, or this interesting conference. It might be, but it's hard to find these kind of times. So it's better actually, for example, for conferences to, even if it's remote, like watch these live, right? Block the time in your calendar and you actually watch these talks as if you would be there, because otherwise you will just add them to another backlog and then forget about them. So I think this is the best way of doing it, instead of having something, okay, let me watch one video per week, which is also nice, but it also like blocks you a bit in your free time, right? So also, like, for example, at SoundCloud, we have these like typically 20% things. So Friday, we normally work on things that is about learning, or, I mean, often I work like on features that I would like to have for fixing bugs, but also like you can try new things, right? You can play with Compose or watch an article. I do coding cutters with a colleague who's not even an Android developer. So these are the things that are definitely, we have so Friday for me is doing this at work time, which is perfect, because then I don't need to spend my free time on it.
Yeah, makes sense. Do you have any Android hero in Android community? Someone that you adore, and maybe as the second question, how do you react if you see them from close?
I mean, the good thing is like spending so much time in these conferences. Like I know like a lot of people that you would like see read the blog posts or so from. Like, I don't know, I really like reading things from, or seeing talks from Juhani Nachtimaki or Eric Hellman, but I also call them my friends. So I'm really looking forward to see them at events. I think in the early Android days, like Fernando Sayers, or maybe some of you remember him. Like if you ever heard about clean architecture in Android, it was one of his blog posts, because that's how it started. Nowadays, he's a bit off Android, but yeah, he was my early hero, and like I always enjoyed when he was at the meetup.
Yeah, cool.
Probably thinks it's funny that I call him a hero nowadays.
Yeah, to be honest, right now you're also one of those heroes that people like to see you from close. But yeah, anyway, okay. We are done with this chapter. Let's see you in the next one. One of the main goals of these interviews is to encourage junior Android developer, and this chapter is totally dedicated to encouraging junior developers. So, as the first question, I like to know how did you start Android development, and what was your maybe first API version of the Android you started with?
That was kind of very early on. So I was doing BlackBerry apps, so like these phones with like a keyboard. Maybe some of you remember those. Was also for Java in those, and I was like, we had like a team, and I was like the team lead, and we mainly did BlackBerry because there was a lot of money in those. We did B2B apps. And then at some point, this thing Android came around, and like we actually hired a junior developer, like to look into this. And this was like when Android really came out. And I contributed a little bit to this because we had a couple of shared libraries that we would use between the clients. And I would touch Android here and there, like in the early days, like 2.1, 2.2. But then at some point I switched to like being a full-time Android developer when I joined eBay Kleinanzeigen, which was the first app that I did worked on my own app when it comes to Android. And I think this was after Honeycomb, so probably 4.1, I would say, when I did full-time Android development.
Okay, cool. By the way, talking about BlackBerry, was it Java or other language? I don't know.
Used Java. They had like this Java micro edition, but added a lot of things on top. So it was very different from, for example, Java that we had for Nokia phone. That's why we use these shared libraries that we shared between Android, iOS, between Android, Java micro edition, and BlackBerry.
Yeah, I was wondering how was the sharing, but if it was Java, yeah, that makes sense. And what was your first serious Android app that you did that published on the store?
Yeah, it was I think eBay Kleinanzeigen. So I became a full-time Android developer. They had like an app, but in the end we had to rewrite it, and I took it over also. So I think this was the first full Android app that I worked by myself on. And if you don't know eBay Kleinanzeigen, it's like the classified version of eBay. So like if you know something like Gumtree, for example, like this is the German version of it.
What aspect of job as an Android developer you love the most that you think other software developers are missing?
So I joined like mobile. For example, I was a Java developer, and someone told me like when BlackBerry came up for us, someone said, "Hey, Danny, you know Java? Can you write like a BlackBerry app?" And that's how I ended in mobile. And immediately got hooked up because I don't know, it's something that you can actually show, like, right? You write an app and you show it. It's very different from like writing, like I was writing printer drivers before and these kind of things, or like something in the backend. And this is definitely something that I enjoy with Android a lot. So many people have an Android phone. And then why Android and not iOS or something else? It's the community. Like really, I love the Android community, and like I couldn't live without it. I mean, yes, there's also our Kotlin community, but still, like I don't know, my heart is like Android, and I met so many people all around the world. Like I'm going to Kenya in 2 weeks, and I'm meeting there with the organizer from an event that I've met like a couple of years ago, and like we will travel around. And this is amazing, right? You met these people all over the world, and you actually become friends with them.
Yeah. I know the feeling. It's like you have friends in all around the world. Yeah. And do you also code for other platforms? I don't know, iOS backend. I mean, nowadays.
No, so I never did iOS at all, and I hardly touched like backend or something. So the way as I said, like our team setup works, it might be that you contribute, for example, to do backend. So we have this backend for content layer that mobile developers can actually touch if they need something. But to be honest, like 90% of my time is pure Android.
And what's your advice for anyone who wants to start Android development today? And as a second part of these questions, do you suggest to start with Java or Kotlin?
Not sure I get the first question. So what my advice? I mean, if you want to start Android and do it, because it's definitely like a good thing to do career-wise. There's a lot of things. It can be a bit overwhelming, I would say, in the beginning because of all these APIs that we added on top. And right now we are like, I think we reached a level where we have really good things in terms of Jetpack and also Compose and coroutines and all of these things that came in over the years. But everything else is still there, right? So maybe one advice is like stick to the new things for now when you come into the platform, which is exactly what all these code labs, for example, teach you, right? And then dig deeper and understand things because when you come to actually work, you will probably find all of these because there the world is not as shiny. Java or Kotlin, if you decided to be an Android developer, definitely Kotlin, because that's the way to go. In general, if you would start with developing right now, and I got this question, I think last week from someone, they didn't even know which direction they want to become. They just know they want to start in development. And I told them, learn either Java or JavaScript, because that's the thing, like so many things you understand in the world of development that are based on this, that this is a good start. Like with this groundwork, you can get very, very far. While other languages might be a bit more niche. But if you already made the decision, I want to do Android, then I think Kotlin is the way to start. And you will probably learn some Java where you go, because a lot of companies still have some Java code.
Yeah, I guess you mean any C-based language like Java can help to grasp and maybe jump to other language easy. Yeah, I agree with that part. Yeah, you also answered my first question. I was going to improve it by saying if you wanted to start Android development today, where would you start? But yeah, you kind of answered my question. How was your last job interview? Because people who are joining this community and Android development are really afraid of interviews, and they don't know how it goes, how technical the interviews are, or things like that. But for the moment, I would like to know how was your last interview, and then how did it go?
So the last interview is the one for SoundCloud, probably, because that's at least where I ended up. So let me tell you how do we do it, and maybe how I felt in those. So like with most companies, it starts with a recruiter call, which you can always be very relaxed with, because you're talking to a person, probably like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. They won't ask you very deep technical questions. So just tell them what their motivation things. This is the easiest interview you can do. You never have to be afraid of those. And then comes like the second phase for us, which is the more technical ones, where it concludes for us. There's a system design one, there is a pair programming one, and then you talk to, for example, to product or to engineering managers. And to be honest, until this day, and so I finished university and I'm studying computer science in 2001. So we are talking about 20 years ago, and still I'm afraid as hell when it comes to like live coding. If I have to pair with someone in an interview or someone is watching me, I have to code something, I'm scared as hell. So don't be feel ashamed if you do the same. I always think like, oh my God, I'm so stupid. Like they will think I'm stupid. It's just a pressure situation, right? But to be honest, what you should think about interviewing a bit in a different way. And I try to tell this everyone, enjoy these interviews because there's always something you learn. And even if you fail, and also I failed, like last time I interviewed, I got a lot of offers, but I also got rejections. I went to the interview process and they rejected me. This happens, like even to us. And at SoundCloud, like most people fail the first time. Like I failed when I was at eBay, I was applying there already, and I failed even the first coding submissions that I sent them, but it's fine, and you learn from them and take it as a learning opportunity. You talk to a lot of people with a lot of different backgrounds, and use it also to ask questions. Like most interviews end with, okay, now I give you the time, ask some questions. Figure out how is the working there? Is this a company you actually would like to work for? Ask them, what are like the bad things about this job or this company, right? It also brings you, I think, to a different level. And when I came out of the SoundCloud interviews, I remember that I liked the people. I thought like I loved talking to every single one of these full interview day that I had back then. Yeah, and so just try to enjoy them. And if you fail, it's fine because you learn something for the next time.
Yeah. I personally have been in both seats as interviewer and interviewee, and after some experience, I got this feeling that if you take it as some friendly talk with one of your colleagues or one of your friends, it really goes very easily. and there are pressures. We are all human. We all know about it. And as you said, live coding is the worst part of it. But in general, the other guy, sometimes I feel maybe the other guy is more stressed than me, because if I do something strange and he could not understand what happened and then it works, then maybe he is also in a bad situation. So this is challenge for both sides, but it's interesting for all of us.
I totally agree, because I'm also on both sides. And I remember like my interview when we did the systems design. I was working with one colleague that is really good here, and I had to design some system, and then I had like solution, and there was another question, and then what if this, and then what if this, and then at some point I said, "Damn, this is hard. This is tricky." Like I got like stuck somewhere, like, and then we both had to laugh. And this is like the atmosphere that should be like.
Yeah, exactly. And to be honest, if it's not like this, then maybe that company is not good for you, because then you will have problems in later, and yeah, you should accept that.
Yeah.
Talking about live coding, do you also believe that an Android developer should have some algorithm knowledge and be able to solve some of those algorithm questions in the interview?
So yeah, I have a very fixed opinion here, very harsh opinion, like not at all. I think the last time I heard anything about binary trees was when I was studying, and we're talking about over 20 years ago. I know it's a regional thing. Like if you want to work for a US company or like one of these big companies like Google, you have to learn these things. This is why I would never, like, even if I get asked, like I never would interview for Google, because I don't want to prepare for these interviews. And you just learn a lot of these things for the interviewing. So if you want to get there, you have to read one of those books and like practice this. In my daily job, I hardly ever needed one of those. It doesn't mean that it's not good to know about this, right? It's like good to know, like sort algorithm and like some complexity. But I don't know. I think last week someone mentioned on a pull request from my side, like, "Hey, there's this complexity," and I said, "Oh, I haven't heard this word in a while," like, because in the things that we work as an Android developer, it doesn't matter as much. And from what I heard, even like in backend, it's not as the way you think it is, that you think about this thing all the time. This is something where you look into when you need to optimize, right? We have a huge amount of data and it doesn't scale anymore. Let's try to optimize. And then you might look these things up. It's good to know like the basics. But to be honest, a lot of these things we're getting for free in like the way collections and these kind of things work, right? It's good to know underneath, but 99% of developers will not write these things themselves.
Yeah, right now with all these modern languages, it's a matter of what you want to do and not how you want to do it. So that's exactly as you said.
And also like an interview, this is like when you're interviewing for a company, like, and they're asking you a lot of these great questions. Think about like, maybe this is not the right company for you. I mean, it depends why they do this, but it's much more enjoyable. I don't know, do we refactor some code together that's actually related to the work, right? This gives you also as a candidate a complete different feeling how working there is, because that's what you want to know as an interview as well.
Yeah, I agree. And I guess you also interview for SoundCloud. And if a junior Android developer like to join the company, in your technical interview, what characteristic you look for to say, okay, this is a right junior Android developer that I like to work with and join SoundCloud?
I'd say curiosity. This is one thing that the juniors bring in that a lot of seniors at some point lose, because they've seen so many projects. I've met like developers, they're very good developers, but they didn't care if they work in the backend, in the front end, on Android, on iOS. Give them something and they work on it. But one reason, for example, like the Android community, that we are, I don't know, a lot of us are very into the topic. And if someone brings this curiosity, or they want to learn this, oh yeah, I heard about this, like, I don't know how it works, but I would like to figure out. I see this energy, then you already like have like a really big plus on my list. And then I think the other thing is, especially for junior, but it's a general, know what you don't know and admit it. Like if you get stuck or you don't know the answer to a question interview, say that you don't know. Yeah. Because a lot of people try to get around and they try to give some answer, and the other person, I mean, they ask this question, so they know what they want to what answer they expect. So they will find your holes, and don't give them this opportunity, right? Tell them, oh, I don't know. Like the same when you do live coding or pairing, I'll say, ask the other person, okay, I'm a bit stuck here. Like, help me, give me a hint. Like when I did like these things, I asked a lot. I have no idea. Can you help me here? And this is actually how real work is, right? I mean, we both as developers, like we ask other people all the time. So know what you don't know and totally admit it. Try not to pretend anything.
Yeah. In such cases, I've also experienced that asking the other person will help you to find the answer, and finding that answer is so sweet. And you don't want to leave that question without answer because you had nothing in your mind and you couldn't ask anyone else to help you. And I guess asking for help is also a positive sign for interviewer that, okay, if this guy get blocked, he just go and ask for help and doesn't say, okay, I cannot do it, let it go. Up to this point, as Danny, who is working in SoundCloud, how was your career path and maybe after switching to Android?
Like after switching to Android, so I started classical computer science, but it was more a coincidence. Like it was like a last minute decision, but it was a good one in the end. Then I really loved C++ when I came out of university, so I started working on this and like really like an ERP system, like really B2B app, like desktop thing. And at some point I realized, oh, Java is so much better than C++, and I wanted to do Java because I was in a project where we had both. And then, as I mentioned earlier, like someone asked me, hey, Danny, you know Java, like can you write an app for this BlackBerry thing? And this is how I went from really like desktop app and like printer drivers, very like byte moving things where like we look at like protocols and so into something that actually has like a display in the UI. And I said, oh my God, I love this. So I went into mobile. It was easy path when BlackBerry went down to move to Android. And I worked for a couple of companies. So like eBay Kleinanzeigen, I went to Groupon afterwards, MTV in between, and there was a Sports Total, which was a small startup, and now SoundCloud. So I like Android and I like streaming. I think these are the two things that I really enjoy. Like when you look at my last jobs, yeah. And I actually, it's always fun to mention, in between this career path of 20 years, I was in this constant being a developer, being like maybe tech lead for 1 or 2, being in kind of a managing path, and then went back to development because it was too much management. And always somewhere in these things, right? I mean, I don't know, like a lot of weird titles, like from tech lead to like head of mobile or something like, but in the end, it's all about Android and development, and I try to stay technical. If I'm not technical anymore, then this is not my point anymore.
Yeah, too much similar to my background. So again, the same as you, I loved C, and then I started C# and lots of .NET stuff for Windows and ASP and websites, and then yeah, same as you, I found Java, and then all those memory management and garbage collection that C and C++ was missing. Yeah, it was so cute and nice. And then Android came in, and yeah, I really jumped on it because, as you said, it's so nice to have your app in your pocket and demo it to anyone, even in a meeting or sitting with your family, and they say, okay, what's your job? You can show your app, and somehow they envy you. I think that's a nice feeling.
I remember like being at some company, like family events where we just had like coffee and cake, and then I saw like my mom has like a cheap tablet. I said, oh wait, can I test my app on this? Because I really want to test something. So we downloaded it and I showed her what I'm actually doing.
Cool. Any technical book you suggest to junior Android developer to read while they are proceeding in this flow?
It's like tough nowadays. I have the feeling like books used to be more a thing like a couple of years ago. It's much harder to catch up nowadays. Definitely, if you're starting with Kotlin or moving from Java to Kotlin, the Kotlin in Action, I think, is a really, really good book and explains a lot of things under the hood. For me, I mean, nowadays it's we can discuss about the author, but the book that made the biggest impact for me was Clean Code by Robert Martin, and I see it also in the back. Like nowadays, you know, you read like the Java samples, and that needs a refresh maybe, but it changed a lot in my way of thinking about code. And like because when it was really, you read like a book and it tells you like a method should have one line, maybe two, three is all very, very questionable. And then you look at your code, and the code all of your colleagues have written for years, and you say, wait, this cannot be, right? So it changes something for sure because of this radicality that it has.
Yeah, one thing I noticed that junior Android developer put too much pressure on junior Android developers is that they think that they do not know all the Android APIs and they should know all of them to start developing some apps. But I personally don't think that's the case. But what's your opinion? What APIs they should learn about, and how does it work from your perspective?
Yeah, I think it's touched a bit what we said earlier. Like start with like the recent thing, right? Like what is currently in use? Like if you're starting nowadays, use Compose. I mean, I have not written a single line of Compose, but if you're starting now, do it, right? Start with like a room database. You don't have to know that. I mean, when you're starting, that there are so many different databases. In the end, it doesn't matter which one you're using, but at least you know something about persistence layers, right? And especially you don't have to know about all the history. Like when you look at like a code, like especially an older app like ours, you will see like if API level here and then there and then there, right? I mean, you will learn these things as you go. That I don't know, the notification API changed like 10 times over the years, but you don't have to know this upfront, right? And you will learn about content provider precursors when you're coming across them, but you will be very happy if you never have to learn about them. So try to have like a broad knowledge, how the UI works, networking, grab one library. And it's similar like in the end with programming languages. Like when I went from Java after 10 years to Kotlin, like it's a similar concept, right? And you enjoy this, and it's not as hard. The same as like if you know work with one networking library, it's easy to move to the next one. Just try to understand the underlying concepts instead of like a library or an API. The APIs will change. Sometimes you have to dig into the history, but there's no way that you can learn like everything like upfront. Like we mentioned it very, very early in this talk. Like there's so many things right now on Android, and so many APIs stacked on top of each other, and so many libraries around there. Like there's no way that we can learn all of those. Like us too, we're doing Android like a lot. We don't know all of these, like just the ones that are currently out there. So trying to even understand the history of all of those, like it's like 2 dimensions that just doesn't work. Like be open. If there's an issue, try to understand where this is coming from. If you're switching project and do a new project, be prepared that there might be APIs that you don't know yet. And I've seen a lot of developers coming into a project and saying, "Oh wait, you're not really using retrofit here. We have to introduce retrofit." No. Like there's no reason. Like there might be a reason why we're not using it or why we're using a different library. Be open, right? The concepts in the end are the same. And if there's a reason to use retrofit, you can bring it in. Then you are the ones giving your input, right?
Yeah, the reason I'm asking this question is that I get the feeling that some junior developers think that they cannot call themselves senior after some years of experience because they do not know everything, because they don't know the history of, I don't know, API 1 and why this changed and why notification changed multiple times. And I also don't think that's a correct thing to do. But yeah, thanks for the answer.
That's the point where you ask a question. Asking question again is like really important. Like, wait, why is it like this, right? Or you try to understand yourself, right?
Yeah,
you're learning something.
In general, what's your definition of a senior Android developer? When a junior or mid-junior developer can consider himself as a senior Android developer from your perspective?
I don't think I have like a strict definition, but I'd say a senior is someone who've seen like different projects, different apps in this term, for example, and they see like patterns. I think a lot of knowledge that we as developers need to have, or capabilities, is like being able to abstract things and to see patterns. And I think as a junior, you very much focus on API and on actually coding. And as a senior developer, often coding is just a small amount of what you do, because that's the easiest part. The planning the whole project, right? Discussing what's the best way, how to approach a problem, how to debug a problem. These are the things that you learn over time, and that I think made like a senior developer it's not about the coding itself. It's about like finding and seeing these patterns. Oh, wait, I think I have an idea where to get started. So a good example for me is, for example, if you have like a crash and you look at a stack trace, like the junior developer will go to this line in the code and I know add an if around it or something. Well, the senior, let me try to understand how we got there, right? It's not about that this one is null, but why is it null at this point of time? And then I try to hypothesis and look at like logs that you, for example, might have to find like what's actually happening towards this. This is the actually way of fixing the issue and not like ignoring it at that point or catching the exception.
Cool. Yeah, that was from technical perspective. Also from personality perspective, any characteristic that you look for in a senior and senior developer?
I think development, and it becomes more and more like this, is about teamwork. It's not about you being the robot that can code this app in 2 weeks. It's about working with a team. Communication is very, very important. Like being humble, like asking questions, getting answers, trying to understand things. Very often, we developers, we work with customers or with product owners, whatever your setup is, and they often, we are the domain experts. So you need to be able to communicate. Okay, wait, the way on Android is like this. I know, like, you know, iOS, or I know, like, you don't know Android. Like, let me explain this to you. And bringing this in the right way and like being the one that all of a sudden they will always ask for. I think this is something that you need to have. So being the developer this is, I think, why we call it developer at some point, and not a programmer. This is, again, more about code. It's not about communication, like being able to discuss things, to ask questions, and to answer questions. And you answer a question differently, you're talking to another developer or you're talking to a non-technical person. And I think a senior developer can switch this context and explain the same thing.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Sometimes I see developers that they can explain some concept technically in a very nice way, but when they want to explain it to PO, then PO get frustrated and confused, and he or she doesn't understand what's happening there. But yeah, that's a really. And
sometimes it's also like, it's like I worked with a really talented developer once, but it was hard to him explain the code. Like the code was very, very like generic and abstract, and the team couldn't understand it. But he could also not explain the code in the best way. And then we had someone in the team who tried to understand it and spent a lot of time. And then he would explain to the team. So he had this communication capability, although his coding skills was not as good. And as I think at some point you reach this level where you have both, right? And this is probably when you can call yourself senior.
Yeah, it reminds me of one of my interviews with one HR guy who asked me to teach him something very technical in Android. And it was a nice question, but I managed to answer some and give him some insight about one of the Android part. I don't remember what was it, but yeah, that was a nice question in an interview, which I really enjoyed. Yeah,
I had once a question where someone looked at like, so you gave some talks about dependency injection. Okay, explain dependency injection to my grandmother. And this is like, whoa. Okay. And this was a really good task. So think about how would you do this, right?
This is too many steps down, and you have to. Yeah. What type of team arrangement do you like to work with? All senior or a mix of senior and junior, and what do you get from junior in that team?
So I definitely like to work with juniors. So like a mixed approach is perfect, I think. Because as I mentioned earlier, like juniors have this curiosity first, which a team often needs. Like they're really, oh yeah, let's start this project, let's do this, right? Well, the senior might more be like, oh no, another device that we have to look at, another API change. And also they have this fresh perspective, like, and they see this in like coding challenges that we get, for example, people applying like, oh, I have not worked with this, interesting. So Because if you're working the longer you work in a company, the more you are doing it one way, because it's always the way you're doing it. And getting this fresh perspective is like something that a junior can bring in. Mm-hmm. They might have a different background. They've started with Kotlin only, which is different from us coming from Java to Kotlin. So this is why I like to have both. And of course, the seniors, because if you want to have your project on time with the right quality, this is where the seniors help a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I also get the feeling that senior developers in a project after a while get biased by some stuff in that project, and when you inject one junior developer, they just kind of push them and give them some idea to change their mind and maybe look for a difference. But yeah,
I remember like when I started here. I asked afterwards the one who reviewed my coding challenge, hey, can you give me some feedback? Because I was always wanted feedback. And then he said like, oh, I felt old because none of the things that I used were used in the company, right? And he was there in the company for a long time. So he didn't use any of those API. And this is what you can bring in from the outside, which is always good.
Yeah, I agree. And up to this point, did imposter syndrome hit you? And you say something like, okay, what am I doing here? I'm not good for this job, or there are better people who can do this.
Yeah, I think we all had it. Like, and I mentioned earlier, like every time I'm doing a pair programming with someone, I thought, oh my God, they will think I'm stupid. I've met like developers where I realized, wow, they are so much younger than I am. They have less experience, and I can already see that they're better than I am. And this is super. Brings a lot of fear to yourself, right? Like you question, like, what did they do wrong? How are they so much better? Like this is completely normal. And yeah, don't be afraid of this. We all have this, even after 20 years of professional development.
This Git blame feature, and let's say you find a hacky code inside the project, and you open the blame, and you see that you did that hacky part. What's your reaction at that point? And how do you try to use that in your future?
Yeah, I definitely know this. Like I always use the annotate right click in Studio and IntelliJ basically the same thing. Very often, like I will find myself adding this line, and then I say, "What the hell?" Where I'm thinking. But in the end, what I take from there is, oh, I guess you didn't document really well, and doesn't have to be a comment. It can be the code itself. Why this is needed, right? So, okay, let's improve this. Like, okay, why is this point there? And even if you can't know it anymore, then you have to look up your own pull request and then look at the history of this. But yeah, I definitely have these where you look at what is this? Who wrote this? Oh, it was me. Like, I think that's totally normal. And I think we all hate also the code that we written like at least 2 years ago or something. Please don't show me code that I've written 10 years ago. Like I will probably sit like this. And by then I already had 10 years of experience. So like this is totally normal.
Yeah, I agree. The interesting part for me is to see the process and how did I grow and what the hell I was doing at that point and now how good I'm doing, hopefully, at this point. But yeah, I agree with that part. Also, something came to my mind regarding commenting that you mentioned. I know some developers say that you should never comment inside the code and code should be readable. But there are points that some hack is happening or some exception or some API is pushing you to do something in a very awkward way. And that's exactly the point that you should write something, because even you in next month could not remember why you did it like this. And that small sentence is going to save you maybe half a day. But yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You do native Android development. What do you think about Flutter? Some solutions that are both Android and iOS at the same time. And maybe after that, KMM. What do you think about the future of those platforms?
So I've not done any Flutter. One thing, and I've always I get people asking this question a lot. What do you think about Flutter? Because very often I think they also expect me getting infuriated or being angry because there's Flutter, and no, I'm not. Like actually 99.9% of people that I talk to that did Flutter said they love it. They love the way that it feels like it was. I remember one, I think he became a Flutter genie later, a few years ago, he said, Flutter made like development fun for him again. And I like that. Like there were a lot of frustrations we have in our daily life with Android. And some of them getting approached and some not. And Flutter was a fresh start. And I can totally see how this is something that developers like. Some people don't like the language, but that's a different topic. But it's definitely something new, something interesting. And the future, I think no one knows what the future of Flutter will be. Like, I mean, there's Android, there's Flutter, and they both seem to have found their spot. If you're starting a project, what should you use? Really, the answer is depends. There might be a good reason to use Flutter. It's hard to get from Flutter afterwards to something more natively because you basically start from scratch. But it might be the right thing for some companies, especially if the app maybe doesn't live long and you're an agency and you want both. Sure, Flutter sounds like a good option to use. And they will probably refer to React Native. But there also might be reasons where I say React Native is your approach because, I don't know, you have a React backend, you have React developers, and you have, go with it. As long as you know the implications, right? You have a plan. Okay, what is like 1-2 years? What if this doesn't work? What you know, like what might be the problem? Like, and KMM, when it came out as a Kotlin multi-platform, I thought this is the right way of sharing code because we had all these approaches, right? That a lot of them were more focused on UI. Or like in the older days, it was like we had some C libraries that shared. Very low level, no one to touch it. And the feeling Kotlin is multi-platform is a better way because there's things that you do on both platforms. So I like that part. I became a bit skeptical when I heard, they also want to now like go outside of Android and iOS, and they also want to go like to some UI level. This feels wrong already because then you move like into like what Flutter is like. But sharing code between Android and iOS, if Kotlin is a way, if you can convince your iOS developer to do this, I think it's a really nice way, and it's I see a lot of companies using it. I think it definitely has a future. It doesn't mean that you always will use KMM for Android and iOS, but definitely it will have its future. So it's a good thing to play around with.
Yeah, what I personally like about KMM is that it helps you to draw a line in between your core and the logic that is related to UI, which should be repeated for iOS again. And that's something that even after years of experience, you really have hard time to understand. And when you think of it like, okay, let's say I want to remove this view layer as an Android view layer, which is Android platform and everything Android, and put something like iOS view on top of it, does my code still work, or it has lots of dependency to Android platform? Like, I don't know, live data or things like that are right now a lot in view models. And then you cannot detach the view and attach another view on top of it, which is not Android anymore. But yeah, that really clear that line, and I love about KMM.
That's a really good point. Yeah, remember when I said earlier that I started with BlackBerry and we had Java Micro Edition? We had like shared Java libraries, and we followed the same principle. It was like a layer that was doing everything for you. And at some point, I wanted an easy way to test things. It was like a remote file browser, basically. So I said I would like a command line client where I would do like CD and then a folder name, and it would translate it. So this was my UI layer, and everything worked out of the box. And this is what these things allow you, exactly as you said, like to think about more the layers that we should have anyway, but often it's very easy to drill a hole and mess up all the dependencies.
Cool. Thanks for all the answer. This is a nice talk. I'm really enjoying. So this is the end of this chapter, and we will see you on the next chapter. So we are back here. We want to talk about in this chapter about Android, some Android technical question, and let's see what Danny is thinking about. Don't you miss Java in general after switching to Kotlin?
No. And I'm struggling more and more when all of a sudden I land like in a Java file, like which sometimes we have like a test file or something. And I don't even notice, like, wait, what's wrong here? Oh, I'm writing Kotlin code in Java. Like, wait, oh yeah, there was the semicolon. I don't know. Like in the beginning, it felt easy to jump between the two, but I don't know, my Java language like goes really like in the back, and I forgot things, and I really don't miss it.
Yeah. Things pass, and then you start forgetting stuff when you're working on a 100% Kotlin project. I agree. Is there any library that you cannot live without? Let's say you have only one option and one library that you can add to your project, what could it be?
Yeah, to be honest, like I don't like. I thought about what this could be like, but like every project has a different set. Of course, if I would set up a new project, I would put my favorite libraries in there. That just makes it easier. I know probably it would be okay HTTP with retrofit. There would probably view model. There would probably be Coin or something. But none of these, like even retrofit or HTTP, I could live without them. I could make a URL connection with pure Java, and I don't know. Maybe it's because I've done this for a while. Like I'm not like bound to a library. Like. And I can adapt to whatever is there, which is actually, I think, a really good thing. I love Kotlin. I don't want to work with Kotlin, but if I need to jump on a Groovy or on Scala, like in our backend, I don't mind. And of course, I won't have like my favorite. I love JUnit 5, and maybe this is my favorite library, but if a project has like Scala tests or JUnit 4 because of, I don't know, Electric or Android Espresso, yeah, then that's what I use. I can adapt.
I got this question from one of my interviews. So if you had power to change an Android API, which one it would be?
I mean, probably there was a lot of decisions like about fragments and activity life cycles that everybody would like to change. But I probably would think about, go back and make sure content providers with the cursor API would never have happened, because I think like if you ever had to work with one of those, like this is one of the worst APIs because it's like the complete opposite of object-oriented programming, and like it just does not feel right.
Yeah, I agree, and this answer comes from experience, because at that point I said, yeah, lifecycle, fragment, whatever. But then when you go further and find worse things, then you say, okay, maybe my answer was not perfect. But I also got another question after this question, that, okay, how would you improve it? And then for the lifecycle, I really had no answer, because I even know iOS developers kind of envy that we have this lifecycle and we know exactly when something is happening, and they don't have such a thing. And yeah, that's really a good answer, I think.
I think the thing I would change, like when you look at an iOS app, if they rotate and they have a good app, that you can see how things go into place, like even if they have a different layout. And we cannot do this because we throw away the activity, right? So, so this, I think, was one thing was a reason for this, but it blocked us from having like a nicer transition there, which you have to solve in different ways nowadays.
Yeah, we are hearing a lot about Jetpack Compose. How did you and maybe your project get along with it? Is SoundCloud going to switch to Jetpack Compose anytime soon, or you see it a bit far?
So, I mean, I haven't used Jetpack Compose at all. I recently looked into like a project that was using Compose, and I see like coding challenges that use Compose. So I have an idea. Also, like watched one of the talks like early on when it came out. Everybody enjoys it that use it, right? And whenever I say to someone, "Hey, I'm not using Compose," they say, "Oh my God, how can you not?" Right? Because the coolest thing ever invented. And the reason is more like I'm not working at UI focused thing. I'm working in the devices team. I did like things like Android Auto, where Compose for now is not my main factor. We are looking at Compose, developers looking into it, and I cannot say when we adapt it and in what way, but it's definitely something that if you're an Android developer, it's not like you can ignore. It's there, and it's the future way of how we write UIs, right? So maybe don't bother learning all this XML unless you have to.
I'm also just recently exposed to it, and I'm trying to have a series of learning Jetpack Compose together on my YouTube channel. And in these chapters and in these parts, I try to migrate one sample app that I already have with different screens, but I've been 2 parts published. I recorded the third part yesterday, and I was thinking that, okay, 3 part would be it and it will finish, but I am hitting lots of troubles and issues while doing the code, and lots of searching, and then it doesn't end. It's not that much easy, but you first have to get the mindset and then know the new libraries and tools, how they can help you. But yeah, I'm also in the middle of learning it. So yeah, cool.
It's a good way to learn it. Like if you have an app, like divide it. I have this one language learning app that I bought for like my niece once, and I remember like in the beginning it was live data, and then to learn flow and coroutines, I moved this project over, and I also planning, okay, if I look into Compose, let's rewrite this UI in Compose. That's exactly the way to go.
Yeah, but that's also a good approach. I remember you were a fan of TDD from all those talks in meetups and all your talks about testing. I personally found it hard to do TDD for Android, but I like to hear from you. Do you believe it's a reality or is a myth for Android development to do TDD? And at the end, how did you find it?
So yeah, I'm a big fan of TDD. I agree that it's much harder on Android, and there's I don't do it as much as I would like to. This is always the code where I have like not the best tests, for example, or not the perfect scenario. I always try to at least stick to the principles, like of TDD, like writing the test as soon as possible, testing as much as possible. I think the mindset is the thing that you learn with TDD. And I'm a believer in TDD, not only because I think it makes you write better code, but also it reduces the stress a lot. Like the thing with TDD, like a lot of developers, they need to be in the zone, in the flow, like, and please don't interrupt me because now I'm right there. Now I can write the code. And there's this interesting thing with most TDD developers or software crafters, they say, if someone wants to interrupt me, wait, give me a second, and then you might finish this one test or this one thing, because everything is such iteration. And there's this one conference talk where someone said, the thing with TDD is I can shut my laptop like all the time and just go home. You know exactly where you need to go. You don't have to have this whole thing in your mind. Everything is in your test, and you know exactly what you're doing these baby steps. And this is, I think, the main reason why I like TDD. Development is so less stressful for me anymore. And they don't need to be in a flow. Like, yeah, I can do one thing and then something else. I would like to. Sometimes I wish all the colleagues would be like this, and I can just ask you a random question. Hey, I just thought about this. What do you think? Like, and then most developers would be, damn, now I need like 20 minutes to get into my thing again.
I missed your answer. Do you do TDD right now for Android, or you just like the mindset and you?
Not all the time, but yeah, I do it. Like, but yeah, I know that it's hard on Android because also like we have Gradle and like running these tests is not as fast. But I try to do and the Android Auto code that I wrote, there's a lot of things that is very test driven there.
You know, my journey in testing started many years ago. Actually, I found this slide lately. This was the very first presentation I gave about testing. It was a BlackBerry developer conference somewhere in California, and it was the year 2008, so Android just started back then, and I was talking about unit testing. But to be honest, from that presentation until today, where I do TDD on a daily basis, it was a long journey. So maybe if this talk helps a bit, like shortening the path for you, I will be happy. Because for me, TDD is the best way to write software. It's the most effective way. But as I said, it was a long journey.
Cool. And when you estimate for a feature ticket, how much time do you dedicate for running unit tests, maybe, or in general tests?
It's a tough question because for me it's so part of this ticket, right? I don't think about it because it's not a separate thing that you can, I don't know, you have to add on. Like it's the speed that I write my code, and I would never commit any code without having a test for it. So, but in general, I think like it will always be like 20% on top, but sometimes you write like 5 lines of code and then it takes you 3 hours to write all the tests for it because of the project setup or something. So, but I'd say like it's something between 20 and 50% that should be part of your code. But in the end, you will save it afterwards.
This thing happened to me a lot, that the release is kind of like with the feature that I'm working on, and I still haven't time to write some tests for it. How do you behave in such cases? Do you say, okay, my ticket is not finished, or you say, okay, let's merge it and I will test it. I will write the test maybe later after release?
That's, I think, what I mentioned with like that I would not commit code that doesn't have a test. Like
Mm-hmm.
even if I don't do a TDD, like once the code is there, I write the test and then I commit it. Like don't even get into this mode where you push it and say you do it later, because later means never. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah.
So it's just part of the development. And yeah, sometimes it sucks because you found these 2 lines that you need to write that you wrote that fixes the issue, and now you have to write the test. But the longer you move it on, also the more annoying testing is. Like, remember, like working with one developer, and he hated testing, and he would write the whole feature and then spend 3 or 4 days writing all the tests. Of course, he hated testing because this is not fun, right? But if you do it fresh, you actually discover things. Oh wait, I missed this. So do it really as fast, as fast as possible, and best do it upfront.
Yeah, I also found that when you write the test, you may want to improve that code that right away, because you may see that this part is not testable, and then exactly. Maybe we should improve it at this point.
The longer you wait, the harder it is will be to write these tests.
Yeah, exactly. And how important is the code coverage number for a project for you? Do you think the code coverage means a nice code or clean code, or what does it mean in general for you?
It's a different topic. Like in general, like you should aim for a high coverage. But I have not looked at code coverage in a long time, like on most lastly projects. It can help when you move to like ad testing and trying to see what you're actually testing. But if you do it the way that I just described it, or if you do a TDD, you aim for the highest coverage possible. You don't look at a specific number, because as you know, the problem of code coverage is that it's a metric that it can easily be cheated. You can have 100% coverage and not a single failing test because you didn't have a single insertion. So the metrics itself, it can give you a hint if you need to look at it, like to figure out, come new to your project. Okay, let's see what's tested and what's not, to get like an idea. But in my daily work, code coverage does not play any role.
Okay, yeah, good to know. And how do you take care of technical debt? Something that you are coding on a feature and then you notice something. Do you try to put it in some paper, or keep in mind, or write some comment, or even put it in Jira, or I don't know, issues of that repository? How do you take care of them in your process, in your day-by-day job?
Ideally, well, you go like very often, like you're trying to build a feature or you're trying to understand the feature, and I look through the code and I see something that I don't like or that I think can be improved, or there's a deprecation warning. While I'm just browsing code, I'm already changing these things. So sometimes called the Boy Scout rule, like always leave the code cleaner than you found it. So some people don't like this because you're adding things to maybe your changes that's not related. I would normally mark them, hey, not related, but clean up or something, or commit them separately, but keep doing them. And then the less you have this problem of like huge tech debt. But of course, we all find these things, oh, wait, we should really have to work on this. And if it's a big thing, I will write a ticket. Otherwise, I might try to do it like afterwards. So it really depends how big it is. But ideally, change it while you're already implementing the new thing, because it's just part of this implementation to make it in a cleaner way than it was before.
Yeah, I love this mindset. Yeah, makes sense. And is there any special tools beside Android Studio that you use for your day-by-day software development?
So very often I'm using IntelliJ, not Android Studio. I don't know, it's a bit more lightweight. I prefer to use this if possible. And then it's very simple tools, like I don't know, use source tree to have UI tool for Git. I use diff merge, which is just a diff tool that I've been used to. None of them is the most fancy one, but I don't know, I'm using them for 10 years and they do the job. I have some text editor normal, like I have BB edit, but nothing of those is fancy. And yeah, I could adapt to something else.
Yeah.
This is my basic set.
Okay. And you mentioned your phone did not get the latest Android, but did you have a chance maybe to test Android 12? And what do you think about it? Maybe you already got it on your phone.
Yeah, so before I went to the Samsung, I actually had Android 12 on my Pixel. And the reason I actually went to the foldable was not because, I mean, of course, I like the foldable idea and I want to try it. But actually, Android 12 pushed me because, I don't know, I was complaining a lot. If you followed me on Twitter, like, I hate Android 12, like UI-wise, like, I don't know. Like I loved Material first when it came out. Like Material 2 gave up some of the principles I liked in 1, but yeah, like the Android 12, like I had so many issues with it, and like after like a week, I bought a new phone like on my own just to get rid of Android 12. I will of course go back to it, but I heard the Samsung version is not as bad, for example.
Yeah, I recall all your tweets, and you were complaining about the text size, about extra spaces that buttons are taking. Yeah, I know. Cool. So
I'm happy. I mean, a lot of people liked it, which is totally fine. But I also had a lot of colleagues who said, I don't know, like, damn, if I have to look at this over scroll effect one more time, I go to a psychiatry or something like. So like, we were a bit like harsh with Android 12, but yeah, I mean, it's hard. Like, it's very easy to discuss about UI and to complain about these kind of things.
yeah, people have different ideas, and to be honest, I personally like it. And at the beginning, when I switched to the Android 12, then it was a big moment of shock at that. Okay, why everything is so huge? But after using them for a while, you really get used to them. And to be honest, I switched to Pixel 6 Pro, which the screen is huge, and maybe that's why I like it. Maybe if I was on a Pixel 6 normal size, then it was a bit big for me. But yeah.
I mean, people don't like change. Often, like they will complain, and a lot of the things that I complained about was like, I don't know, like I click the shutdown button, and like from these tiles with the mini icon, like every time I didn't know which one to shut down. Like after the third time, I still didn't get it, and this was the things that I don't know annoy me. It's just small UX issues, but none of them is like not fixable, right? So things improve over time, and then, as you said, we get used to it very quickly.
I also like that the Google Pay is inside notification bar, and you don't have to look for the Pay app the whole time. But okay, that's my opinion.
Yeah.
Cool. So we are done with this section. We will back with the another part. Okay. In this chapter, I will ask you some options, and you have to pick one. Let's see how it goes. So between Mac, Windows, and Linux, which one do you prefer to pick for software development or Android development?
I use Mac. Before I did Android, I actually used Windows, but this is now a few years ago. And before I used Windows, I used Linux. So I never went back to any of those. So it's Mac, then Windows, then Linux.
Okay, cool. And yeah, between Kotlin and Java, or even Dart for Flutter, which one do you pick?
Let's do it like I said, Kotlin for sure, then Dart, then Java. Like I think someone once said, like when Flutter came out, like Dart is better than Java, but sorry, Kotlin is not better than Dart. So
yeah, there's a level. Yeah, exactly. And I think I know this answer from you, but Dagger or Coin?
Coin for sure.
I knew it.
Most people know what kind of Dagger, but I'm using Dagger like on my daily work, for example. Like,
I don't know. May I ask if in SoundCloud you're using Coin or Dagger?
Yeah, Dagger. That's what I just mentioned. Like,
I
have to use Dagger on a daily basis, and I might make sometimes fun. Can I finally introduce Coin? But I know it's fun. That like we will never go there.
Yeah. Okay. And ArcJava coroutines, which one do you prefer?
Tricky one, because I used to be a big opponent of ArcJava. At DroidCon we once had a panel discussion, RX must die. I was a big fan of coroutines when it first came out, like before it went 1.0. And I recently not sure anymore. I think coroutines added so many pitfalls and so many things about structured concurrency that I sometimes think that ArcJava is easier. But coroutines is the future, so don't bother with ArcJava. But when I have the choice in my daily work, I most of the time still go ArcJava.
Yeah, that's a perfect point. I also have the feeling that there are lots of feature adding on top of the coroutines, and it's getting hard for everyone, I think. But yeah, let's move on. For Git, do you use terminal or some GUI?
Most of the time UI, I use source tree, but when it comes to rebasing, I like to use the command line because I have to find a good tool that does it UI best for me.
Yeah, cool. Thanks. We are also done with this part. For the last part, first of all, how do people can get in touch with you? Is this your Twitter handle fine, or is there any other channel?
yeah, best is to add me on Twitter, Preussler Berlin. Yeah, I mean, I have LinkedIn, but this is the easiest way to reach me.
And any other topic that you like to talk about, which I missed, or any advice for junior developers or those who are considering to be an Android developer?
I'd say stay curious, like be curious and keep this curiosity. And I hope for all of us, like meeting coming back soon, because I really miss like meetups, like personal meetups, to meet all of you. And I hope to see you all soon.
Yeah, we had a nice DroidCon and I really enjoyed it. After a while, it was super nice.
Yes, it was like a family reunion for us.
Exactly. Thanks for taking care of that. I know you were one of the members of the whole DroidCon to make it happen, and you all did a great job. And yeah, again, as you mentioned, it was like a family reunion and meeting all the old friends that used to live in Berlin and moved outside, which was so cool. Cool. Thanks for being with me. Thanks for answering all my questions and maybe some other Android developer questions. And it was super nice talking to you. I like to invite the viewers to subscribe to this channel to support, and if they are interested in Android development, and like and share it with other Android community member and Android enthusiasts. And yeah, let's be together and make nice Android apps. Bye.
Bye.